Once upon a time, in a kingdom surrounded by silver rivers and golden hills, there lived a kind-hearted girl named Cinderella. She was born into a noble family. Her father, Lord William, was a respected man in the court of the king. Her mother, Lady Eleanor, was gentle and full of love. Cinderella grew up in a warm home, learning kindness from her mother and bravery from her father. Her laughter once filled the great halls, and her eyes sparkled like morning dew. But destiny had its own plans. When Cinderella was still young, her mother fell ill and passed away. The house that was once full of songs became silent. Her father, who could not bear the loneliness, soon remarried. His new wife, Lady Prudence, came from a wealthy but arrogant family. She brought with her 2 daughters, Clarissa and Beatrice, who were proud, selfish, and envious by nature. At first, Lady Prudence smiled sweetly and pretended to love Cinderella, but deep inside, jealousy was growing like a shadow. Cinderella was beautiful and gentle, and every servant in the mansion adored her. The stepmother could not stand it. Not long after the marriage, Cinderella's father was called away on a long journey for the king. He kissed his daughter goodbye and promised to return soon. But fate was cruel once again. His ship never came back. A storm swallowed it whole, and with that, Cinderella's last protection disappeared. Lady Prudence now ruled the house completely. From that day, Cinderella's life changed. The stepmother ordered her to move from her bright, warm bedroom to the cold attic. "It's only right that my daughters have the best rooms," she said coldly. She took away Cinderella's fine dresses and jewels and gave her rough clothes. Every morning before sunrise, Cinderella had to clean the floors, fetch water, cook, wash, and polish until her hands were red and raw. Her stepsisters laughed at her, calling her Ash Girl, because she always had soot on her face from the fireplace. But even in hardship, Cinderella remained gentle. When the stepmother shouted, she stayed silent. When the sisters mocked her, she smiled softly. She found comfort in the little things: the chirping of birds on her window, the warmth of sunlight through dusty glass, and the hope that someday, life would change. The servants loved her, though they were afraid to help. They often whispered, "One day, the heavens will reward your kindness." Meanwhile, in the royal palace, Prince Adrian, the only son of the king, was growing restless. He was brave and noble but tired of empty flattery. Every day, nobles came to impress him, yet he longed for something real, someone who saw him not as a prince, but as a person. He often wandered beyond the palace walls in disguise, riding through villages to see how his people lived. One sunny morning, he stopped by the market in Cinderella's town. Dressed like a commoner, he helped an old woman who dropped her basket of apples. When he looked up, his eyes met those of a girl carrying bread and flowers, Cinderella. She was buying food for her stepmother and sisters. Her dress was simple, her hair tied loosely, but her face shone with natural grace. For a brief moment, the world went still. The prince smiled politely. She curtsied, shyly looking down. That brief meeting left a mark in both hearts. The prince returned to the palace thinking of her smile, and Cinderella walked home wondering about the kind stranger. Days passed, and the kingdom prepared for a grand royal ball. The king had decided it was time for his son to choose a bride. Every noble family received an invitation, including Lady Prudence's household. The stepmother's eyes gleamed with greed. "This is our chance," she said to her daughters. "One of you will become queen." They spent days preparing dresses and jewels, making servants run endlessly. Cinderella, too, helped, sewing gowns, washing lace, and polishing shoes. When she quietly asked, "May I go too, stepmother?" the invitation was for all ladies of noble birth. Lady Prudence laughed cruelly. "You? In rags? The prince would think we brought a servant. Stay home and clean the ashes." Cinderella hid her tears and nodded. That evening, when the carriages rolled away with the stepmother and her daughters, she sat alone by the fire. The night sky sparkled outside, and she whispered, "If only I could see the ball. Just once in my life." Her voice trembled with longing. Suddenly, the room filled with a soft, golden light. Out of thin air appeared a gentlewoman in a shimmering cloak, holding a wand. "My dear child, why are you crying?" she asked kindly. Cinderella gasped. "Who are you?" "I am your fairy godmother," the woman replied with a smile. "I watched your kindness and patience all these years. Tonight, you shall go to the ball." Cinderella was speechless as the fairy waved her wand. The ashes on her dress turned into sparkling silver silk. Her shoes became crystal clear as water. Her hair glittered with jewels. A pumpkin in the kitchen turned into a golden carriage, and mice became white horses. "Go, my child," said the fairy. "But remember, the magic will fade when the clock strikes 12. Cinderella thanked her and hurried away. The palace shone with thousands of candles when she arrived. Everyone turned to look as she entered. Whispers filled the hall. "Who is she? Such beauty!" Prince Adrian, standing near the throne, was struck speechless. It was the same girl from the market. He walked toward her slowly, as if drawn by fate. "May I have this dance?" he asked, bowing deeply. Cinderella blushed and nodded. They danced across the marble floor, lost in each other's eyes. Music surrounded them, but to them, there was only silence and heartbeat. They talked, laughed softly, and felt as if they had known each other forever. Time flew by. When the clock began to strike 12, panic filled Cinderella's heart. "I must go," she whispered. "Wait, tell me your name," the prince called, but she was already running down the grand staircase. One glass slipper slipped off her foot, yet she didn't stop. The carriage vanished at the gate, leaving her back in her simple dress, breathless beneath the moon. The prince found the glass slipper and held it close. "I will find her," he vowed. "No matter where she is, she will be my queen." The next day, royal messengers spread across the land, carrying the glass slipper. Every noblewoman tried it on, but it fit none. When they reached Lady Prudence's house, the stepmother quickly locked Cinderella in the attic. "Don't let her be seen," she ordered. "The slipper must fit one of my daughters." But the slipper was too small for both. As the guards prepared to leave, a soft voice called from upstairs. "Please, may I try it?" The prince's officer frowned. "Who is that?" "Just a servant," said the stepmother nervously. "She's no one. Every maiden must have a chance," replied the officer firmly. He ordered the door unlocked. Cinderella stepped down, her face pale but calm. Her stepsisters giggled cruelly. But when she sat and placed her foot in the glass slipper, it slid imperfectly. The guards gasped. The stepmother stammered, "There must be some mistake." But at that very moment, Prince Adrian himself arrived, unable to stay away from the search. When he saw Cinderella, recognition filled his eyes. "It's you," he whispered, "the girl from the ball." Cinderella curtsied, tears of joy in her eyes. "And you're the kind man from the market," she said softly. The prince took her hand and smiled. "No more tears, Cinderella. Come with me." Lady Prudence fell to her knees, begging for forgiveness, but the prince ignored her. He took Cinderella to the palace, where the king and queen welcomed her warmly. The fairy godmother appeared once more, unseen by others, and whispered, "Your kindness has brought you home, my dear." The wedding that followed was the grandest the kingdom had ever seen. Bells rang for miles, flowers covered every street, and the people rejoiced because their new princess was one of them, kind, gentle, and full of grace. The stepmother and her daughters were not punished, but sent to live humbly in the countryside, where they learned the meaning of kindness through labor and reflection. Cinderella never forgot the years of hardship. As queen, she made sure every orphan and servant in the land was treated with care. The prince stood proudly beside her, ruling not with pride, but with love. Every morning, they walked together in the palace gardens, hand in hand, smiling at the life they had built. And when the stars shone at night, Cinderella would sometimes whisper a quiet thank you to her fairy godmother, and to her own heart, for never giving up hope. And so, the girl once covered in ashes became the light of a kingdom, proving that true beauty shines from kindness and courage. The prince loved her not because she was perfect, but because she was real. Together, they lived happily ever after, their love a legend whispered in every corner of the realm.